first of all, thanks very much for having us as ever. Apologies on behalf of my co-presenter John for his tardiness. I'm sure he didn't mean it. It's the one. All right. What do we want to talk about today? Well, I know I certainly love talking about myself. I know John does as well. So the first one we're going to cover is just a bit about who we are. Uh, After that, we're going to look at the state of the nation. What is the current state of kind of cybersecurity attacks across 365? And I guess in technology in general, really, is the one. And just kind of where are we today is the important thing. Then the next one is how would we typically attack a 365 tenant based on kind of the what we've seen in terms of the attack vectors. How would you go after a 365 tenant? What's your best way of trying to get into one? And then the most exciting part is going to be just before this one. It's going to be John's going to give us a live demo of him trying to get into a tenant. So I'm very, very excited to see it go live, and I'll explain why in a minute.
You haven't seen it live yet, have you?
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to come to, John. Is the one. Then we're going to have a quick look at what can you guys do to better protect yourself against this sort of attack. I've pulled together a few points around what I would typically recommend, and after that, if unfortunately the worst has happened and you have been attacked, you've been compromised, what should you realistically do next is the one. I mean, for me, I typically have this slide at the beginning of anything I talk about, and I would say, we typically have a dedicated Q&A at the end. If you just stick your hand up, I can't. I'll be honest. I was too busy just getting the slides ready. I didn't pay enough attention to the housekeeping rules, and I don't know if you were happy for us just to have questions on the fly, or did you want to tackle them at the end? I'm happy either way. If you have a question, feel free to stick your hand up. Is typically what I would say, and me and John will have a look. One of us typically is presenting, the other will have a look. Now, the fun and games with this one is a bit about myself. We were actually supposed to do this presentation on the 18th of September. Was my understanding, at least, is the thing. So I made a trip into London to go present this with John on the 18th of September. Unfortunately, it was only after the fact that when I got to London that I realized, I texted John and said, hey, where are we? Let's meet up. Let's do some slides and get ready for this presentation. Unfortunately, I actually went into London on the wrong day. So I have no idea how this one happened, but I actually ended up in London in the wrong day. So it was actually the next day. It was the 19th. So that's why I'm very excited to see this actually come together. A good friend of mine actually stood in, thankfully, for me on the day. Jose stood in for me on the 19th. But I had a great trip into London. I got to Paddington. I ordered some food and turned around, and then went back home. So it was a delightful one.
Lovely
so I'm very
3 hour round journey, no?
well. At least I got to try Crossrail, or Elizabeth Line. But I was very excited. But apologies for that. That's why I'm very excited to see what the demo is all about. It's the one. I'm a solutions architect. I work mainly on identity and security and policing in the UK. I'm ex-Microsoft. I'm a 3 times Microsoft MVP. I'm in MVP in identity security and M365. That's a bit about me. Over to my man, John.
So this is the second time I've done this presentation now. Basically, my name's John Jarvis. Again, Microsoft MVP 2 times with both Intune and Windows 365. Now work for Ivania in the UK. And my main expertise is around Defender, Intune, security, Windows 365, a bit of everything. So, yeah, nice to kind of be on another security user group and to hopefully share something of value to everybody here.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Let's go.
State of the nation. I like this one. It's just kind of reflecting on where we are at the moment in terms of cybersecurity and kind of, for me, I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I mean, I feel like every day we're seeing, and I don't know if it's just news and we see more and more, but cybersecurity, well, one, we know is becoming more prevalent. And I think the other thing is just the state of how many different vehicles there are to attack. So, I mean, for me, we've got ransomware, which is kind of a common one, but we've got new ones like supply chain attacks were only really, when was that first one? The mega one. I think it was SolarWinds was really the first example of that. So I think we're seeing more and more. There's whole new ways of attacking. We've got basically the hybrid work scenario, which is kind of, I guess, deeply embedded and offers more additional ways to kind of get into an organization. I think
that's why I think things like zero trust is like perfect for that. Zero trust methodology, and I've seen lots of organizations like trying to get to that zero trust framework now. Cyber Essentials Plus is becoming a big thing to kind of, I don't know, sort of not too sure where this is based, but in the UK, we have something called Cyber Essentials Plus. Most organizations need that for some type of like cybersecurity insurance, and yeah, that tax service is a really big part of that, and so zero trust. And
I
then
think,
second,
yeah, go for
acceleration,
it.
Luke.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, this is really just around all the different new technology. So one is the level, the kind of the number of areas to attack and the ways to attack. The next is kind of the brand new technologies we've got. So the integration of AI, Internet of Things, and the big one, quantum computing is the one. So I actually set up a VPN the other day, and I made it quantum computing proof in terms of the tunnel is the one. So I haven't really had any experience with quantum computing, but I know it's coming down the pipeline is the one. So that is gonna,
And Luke,
yeah, yeah,
this acceleration is not only like acceleration of AI tools, but it's the acceleration of AI tools in both attack and defense. So
correct, yeah. So
you're seeing AI both being used now for attackers trying to hack environments and stuff like that. But we're also seeing stuff like Copilot for security, Microsoft Intelligence, and all of that stuff that we work with day to day. But I'm sure there's other ones in other brands. But yeah, it's attack and defense within AI as well, eh?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've had a look at some of the fun and games around AI tooling and basically different ways of attackers using it as the one. So jailbreaking kind of models and getting in and basically allowing it to enter prompts that it shouldn't really. After that, they can then start asking for kind of malicious code or crafting malware and the like. And the other one is obviously there's a whole bunch of open source models. You can get unlocked models, as it were. So there are no kind of safe or safety controls on them, and away you go is the one. So yeah, John's right. We can use it for red teaming and blue teaming is the one. So it's it's a whole new ball game really. But I mean that's always the way it's been. There's always new things coming down the pipeline, and I think in terms of acceleration, the frequency of attacks as well as the other one. So it's not just probably the speed at which technology iterates, but also the scale of attacks. And the final one, I think John already touched upon this, but costs around this. So I think, look, hiring skilled professionals, ensuring compliance, basically, like John said, cybersecurity's essentials plus UK frameworks here to stay in line with that, and the financial impact of cyber incidents. I mean, whether you get hit, the insurance and so forth, the costs for cybersecurity are certainly going up is the one. It's becoming more and more prevalent. And that's really what we're trying to get across with this slide is the one. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but certainly from my side, I was, previously, maybe 5, 10 years ago, I was in SharePoint and kind of the wider piece around that. Since then, I wanted to pivot into identity and security, and it's only been a good thing.
You become technical.
I mean, John, I think I would whip you any day on technical knowledge. I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah, sure.
I strongly believe it is the one. So
Okay.
I would never waver
You
my.
got to believe in yourself.
You have to. Who else will? That's the important thing. And then I had a quick look and saw kind of what. I mean, we know attacks are more frequent. We know the scale and the vectors that they're coming at us with are getting more and more complex. Like we said, the state of the nation. It's what I wanted to look at then next was how are people trying to attack people, and basically I started pulling together what are the attack vectors, what are the big ones, and the percentages here represent the number of organizations that have been hit by one is the thing. So or an attempted attack vector here. And I just
That
pulled the top.
phishing is crazy, right, Luke?
Well, I mean,
75% of organizations have found that they've done by phishing attack. And I've got something to add to this.
go on then.
So we at Varnia, we have red teaming, we have and we have pen testing. One of the reports that we do to one of our customers, I think it's quarterly. We do like a phishing test, so attack simulation. One of our so we sent it out to the whole organization, phishing attack. Over 20% of the users that were sent a attack simulation clicked the link to input their details, and a small number actually input their details and were completely duped.
What was
And
the
and we're seeing that across the whole of the pen testing reporting that we do for our customers as well. So it's incredibly high, the phishing, incredibly high.
And I mean, did you use a sensitive subject there, John, when you sent that one across, or was it your standard kind of employee compensation list, or what were we
So yeah,
thinking?
there's different. Obviously, there's different ones what you can do. I think we go into it in a little bit on this slide, but I'm not sure. I'm not in a pen testing team. I'm just a person who looks at it and goes, you need to needs to do something about it.
So I mean, yeah, John's right. Look, the standout numbers probably here are malware with 61% and phishing is 75%. So three-quarters of organizations have reported they've had phishing attempts on them at least is the one. The
And
rest,
you'll also find that they use a bit of everything. So they use a
yeah,
phishing attack to use the man in the middle, and maybe you'll see that in a little bit. And then once they're in, malware attacks
mhm,
whilst inside the organization if they get that far.
yeah,
Sorry.
spot on. So they might well pivot, and I think John's spot on there because we probably might see phishing as the entry vehicle, and then like you said, we might hit man in the middle, we hit some malware, ransomware, and so on and so forth. And at that point, you kind of stuffed as the one. And then Craig, I can see you got your hand up. Go for it, please.
Yeah, is it fair to say that the types of phishing attacks are also becoming more complex in
Yeah.
terms of, yeah, in the
QR codes, yeah.
earlier days as well around, you get the grammar and the English wouldn't be particularly
Well,
good, but nowadays it seems to be improving.
and I think to add to that, you can chat GPT it up and come up with something pretty fancy. And I think a lot of it is really about rage baiting is one that I've seen certainly. And compensation schemes, benefits, like stuff that is actually targeted, manager one-to-one, all this sort of stuff is getting more and more complex and better, really, is the one in terms of the ability to customize these things. And of course, you have, spear phishing or whale phishing is the one where it's very targeted, and that might use some social engineering, some kind of web scraping around that individual person that you're targeting, and go from there is the one. So we can get not just phishing, but you can get extremely targeted and extremely bespoke and personalized to an individual.
There was something I think 6 months ago, Luke, or maybe a little bit longer, but the QR codes become quite a big thing. So people would just do a phishing email and it contain a QR code for someone to scan to win something or something along those lines. They'll scan the QR code and it's
Where you go.
done quite a lot of the work for them type thing.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, the most important one probably to look at is probably the entry vehicle and the most prevalent one, which is kind of phishing, is the important thing as an attack vector. Obviously, we have these other ones. I think the end state is typically malware and ransomware is where they want to get you to, really. Man in the middle can be used there. Social engineering can help set up phishing, and it can be used basically in other ways as well. Okay, here you go. This kind of alludes to it. What is the objective? So those are your vectors. What is the end state for them? And like I said, it's probably going to end up with ransomware is typically where we're going to go is the one. And I think 70% is really where they want to end up is ransomware. Then you've got basically 7% data exfiltration and 90% network breach is the one. And I think for me, the most interesting one now, I remember listening to this on Darknet Diaries, but there's a darknet. It was a dark web marketplace was the one, and they are basically holding the whole kind of user list to kind of data exfiltration. So basically, they're going to expose the whole kind of user list unless they're paid is the one. And again, we're seeing this in organizations that people could just recover from backup in terms of ransomware. So the new one is that they're going to threaten to expose you on top of that is the one.
So something that was the TFL, I think, at the beginning of September was they had a network breach. Young kid went through network breach and then ended up data exfiltrating. I think all of the credit card details, debit card details from everyone who does scan in and scan out. Within literally, and they had 30,000 employees having to go line up with appointments and change their passwords manually on the network.
Wow, that's crazy to manually change it, eh?
Yeah, to manually change it because everything was exfiltrated. They couldn't. They had no other way. It's the only way they could possibly do it. So everyone's there, 30,000 people had to manually go in and change their password.
It's bonkers.
There's like pictures on LinkedIn of like people queuing up.
Really?
Mad, yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. And then, I mean, basically, I think in summary, cybersecurity is getting more and more complex. The attack surface is growing, costs are rising, and the avenues in which they can attack us is growing. I think the key really is we've seen a few attack vectors. How do they want to get in? Typically, it's going to be phishing is the main avenue in, is the important thing. After that, what do they really want to do? It's probably going to be a combination of ransomware, and if ransomware doesn't work, then they'll probably kind of data exfiltrate and threaten to kind of expose your data is the other one, and that one's growing in stature is the important thing, because I don't think that one was really around maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They didn't really care too much. It's now kind of people are getting more clued up to kind of ransomware. So at this point, it's more a case of how can we extract money from this organization now that we've kind of breached them is the important thing. How do we do it? Is probably over the next one, John. This is you?
Yeah, sure. So how do we do it? Oh, you did change it.
You like that?
It's the first time I've seen it. So yeah, where do we start? So yeah, down the left-hand side, email harvesting tools. So we got scraping tools such as Hunter.io, data leaks, phishing kits. So as Luke kind of just said, that dark web marketplace with where data's already been leaked, somebody's already got that information. That could be purchased as well. And there's also the phishing kits that we'll probably see in a minute. It's not really what we're going to use, but they're similar type of things. So phishing kits where you can go and buy a whole phishing kit and go off and start being what do you call it, a fisher? The fisherman? what's the
I don't actually know.
What's the extra name for it? A fisherman.
Well, talk us through what's Hunter.io then, John? Because what's that one? I'm guessing
is this your scraping tool? So it's something I'll go off and it's a scraping tool. I've used it personally, to be fair. I just know it's a scraping tool. And then public information sources, so social media. So something that Luke kind of just said there with the spear phishing, and is that using social media to your advantage. So going on LinkedIn, working out who are like C-level people within an organization, possibly to use as a figurehead for a phishing, and that's something we'll see in a minute in my demo. Also using it to see who could possibly have maybe global admin credentials within an organization, who could potentially have a power within a tenant to be able to go off and be able to lateral move throughout an organization. But then start making up an image of your head within an organization just by using LinkedIn. You also got the company web. Sorry.
Oh yeah, just to allude to that, John. Typically, just an example might be you'd typically go look at an organization. You'd look at kind of who the IT operations team are. You can then start looking at their technologies and skill set. So, if they run SQL Server, they have an Oracle DBA, they may have Java developers, and you can work from that to build kind of a tech stack of what an organization is using. And again, build from attack vectors from that is the one.
So something that one of our pen testers spoke about a couple of weeks back was they try to get a feel of what the organization is using and how they currently work before they do anything. So before they even start, so they get that profile, and they use the company websites to kind of see people who maybe are not on social media but might be referenced within the website and stuff like that, pictures, all of that type of stuff. And then press releases, news articles as well. Like, some press releases are done by third parties. So how can an attacker use a third party or an agency as a mechanism as well? And then we've got the reconnaissance and social engineering at the top, phone calls, job postings, conference and event attendees. So that's a funny one, but it is an actual true thing. So someone with the job posting one, it was about 2 months ago, and it was I can't remember. It was a cyber company that does threat intelligence, and they had a job posting go up. Someone got the job, and it turns out that it was somebody from North Korea using AI to alter their appearance from their within a Teams through their Teams interviews, and they completely changed how they sound, how they look. They got the job, and they used fake ID, all that type of stuff, and then leaked lots and lots of information about everything that they already had. It's
I remember
crazy.
reading another one of these, but they had a suspicion that he was like an agent of North Korea, and I think they watched the logs on the laptop, and as soon as he got it, that he tried to install some malware basically on day one, which I thought was
Mad.
kind of that was kind of letting the cat out of the bag a bit too quick there on that one. Is the thing.
Yeah, I was trying to find a company. I think it was like Maz something, I believe. But it's quite funny because we actually use that organization. I've actually used that organization in the past, and they sent out
A mailer? What
a
were you saying?
meeting. They sent out a meeting invite, like a conference type thing, saying this is how we sussed out and stopped this leak. And it was like, no, you actually leaked. Yeah, there's lots of
gosh.
data actually leaked, and they tried to say that they stopped it before it happened, which was quite funny. But yeah.
I think which are the ones like John touched upon, the dark web marketplaces is the one. So if you've been breached, typically you might be able to go buy a database or a dump, as we'd typically call it, on the dark web, and basically get a bunch of kind of I've seen the forums, so yeah, you can go buy databases of credentials, user information, whatever it may be, whatever they're dumping out of these organizations, you can go get it on the dark web is the one.
So something
Yeah.
something that we're actually doing within so we've got a managed SOC within our organization, and we're actually making sure that we're doing in-person interviews for anyone who works on the works within the SOC, just to stop that job posting thing from happening.
Okay.
So it's something that I think people need to take into account of in the future, especially for privileged positions within an organization. Internal company targets. So that's something we spoke about a lot, isn't it, Luke? Malicious insiders and using Defender for endpoint DLP.
And yeah, that's there's always the threat from inside as well as the thing. So that's the other piece that we'd say that basically it's not only external. You also want to look inside as well as the thing. And again, that alludes to what John's saying about people joining your organization now and basically going away. And the only other one I'd call back to job postings is that I know some pen testers have gone to interviews specifically to extract information about an organization before they attack it, is the one, which is another fun one.
Nice. So enter Evil Jinx. So Evil Jinx is a man-in-the-middle attack framework. It's run on Linux. It actually can be run on Windows as well, but we're going to be running it on Linux in root. And basically, it's going to be a man-in-the-middle where, we can take the sessions from a user and then log into that user with their credentials and bypassing multi-factor authentication completely. So this can be done not only on Microsoft 365, it can be done on Gmail, Netflix, LinkedIn, basically anything that you can set you can set up some fish lists for. And it is readily available on that GitHub link down there below. And it's relatively easy to set up. I mean, I've set it up, so.
And like John said, look at all these fish lists that are ready to rock and roll as the thing: GitHub, Instagram, PayPal, Proton Mail, Reddit, LinkedIn, O365, Okta. I mean, TikTok, who cares? Twitter, well, again, I'm on the fence on that one. Amazon, Citrix, Outlook, Facebook, Coinbase. There's a whole heap of them that are ready to rock and roll, are ready to be used as the important thing.
Yep, exactly.
And this is just a high-level kind of overview of how it's going to work is the one. Now, I know it says ADFS, but ignore that. This is probably the quickest and easiest kind of diagram I could find. In terms of service provider, you're going to log into Microsoft Online. John is going to sit here in the middle with his Evil Jinx, and he's going to basically have the client. So this is the kind of the high-level architecture of the attack and how it's going to work. And then I think it's over to you, John, to show us the magic is the one.
Thank you for the luck. Okay, cool. We're going to go through it step by step. So let me share my screen. Okay, so we're going to log into my host name, which I've got called Microsoft MSFT-OneDrive.zip. So that's a domain that I brought. The top level domain, the top level is TTL is .zip, which is crazy. Like, I can't believe that you can buy a .zip, and that becomes quite a nice
URL to kind of fish people with is the important 100%. Thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you see the link, it's going to end with .zip, so users may quite easily become confused. So wasn't there another one? I'm trying to think. There was .zip and there was another one that people were upset about when they.
Yeah, there was. Someone might be able to help us with that. What was it? .zip and.
I can't remember.
.bat,
the other
isn't
one
it? Wasn't it like
.bat?
.bat or
Maybe.
something like that? And we're going to log straight in. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to open up Evil Jinx by going build Evil Jinx. I'm going to do a P to say that this is going to be the folder for my fishlets. So it's literally just under fishlets. And you can see here I've got a Microsoft 365 fishlet already set up. And in that fishlet is basically, can I show you? I might be able to show you. I might be used to show you. But basically it's everything that I need to, all the details that I need to be passed through to myself to be able to get the session from the user. So we need to have the fishlet set up. And I've already, just so I don't mess up anything, I've already got all of the all of the commands already there, ready to copy and paste. So I need to configure the domain. So I'm just going to configure the domain, and I need to say that the host name for this fishlet is going to be Microsoft for Microsoft 365 fishlet is going to be Microsoft-OneDrive.zip. So let's just copy that in. We can see that's been set to Microsoft OneDrive.zip, and it's disabled the fishlet, even though it already was disabled. I'm going to configure now the external.
John, is there any way we can increase the font size?
No worries. Where are we?
Change settings, probably.
Change settings. There we go. Appearance.
There it is.
Change. Is that okay?
Yeah, it looks better from this side, John. Thanks for that.
Okay. So it's going to disable the fishlet, and the next part I'm going to do is configure the external IP address. So I'm configured it to what my
that's just your VPS's public IP, is that right? So your VM, as it were, that's your public IP.
That is, yeah, that's my public IP. So once that's all done, and I've set all of that up, I'm just going to enable the fishlet. So it's going to be fishlets enable Microsoft 365. What it's going to do now is going to obtain 17 TLS certificates, and I've already done it before, so it sees that it's there and it's successfully set up. What I need to do for that is everything within the fishlet, I'll have like login.msfd-onedrive.zip. I need to make sure that DNS is set up for all of the URLs within the fishlet. And you can see here that's now successfully set up the TLS certificates. So now if I type in fishlet, I can see that's enabled. I can see the host name. And if I was just now to go fishlets Microsoft 365, I can see all the information within that that fishlet. Great. So secondly, I need to create a lure. So the lure is going to be the URL that the user is going to click on. I've already got one set up, but let's look at the lures. I've got this Microsoft 365 one set up. I can see the path is this QMDVHMIQ, and I've got a redirect URL as well. So that redirect URL is going to redirect the user to that URL after I've logged in, the user's logged in. So great, that's all set up now, and now I can start to be fished. So let's just go to Outlook over here, then I'll pull it over. So now I'm logged in as Lee Gu, sorry. He's logged in, he's doing his day-to-day work, and he sees an email down here, and it's from John Jarvis. John Jarvis is the CEO of his organization, but look, it's not a business domain, it's his Outlook. It's been created. And it says, "Hi Lee, please can you urgently print these documents as my printer is broken and get them sent to my office." And we can see here, Lee looks at this email and hasn't done too much training on what he should click on. It looks genuine. It says Microsoft Soft. It's a .zip, so he needs to log in. He needs to download it and print it off. And it's got a nice regards, John Jarvis, SY23. That's the company name. And something as well you normally see in these emails is high importance. Please get this done now. Please get it done quickly. Can you urgently print these documents? All these urgent words to get someone to go, oh, I need to do it because my boss said so. And I've actually taken this because someone actually tried to send this to me at my old organization. I looked at it and laughed and knew it was a fish straight away. So Lee clicks on this link and he goes, oh, I need to sign in. So Lee then signs in, Lee G. I've got a post-it note in front of me because I just forget it. Secure as always. And Lee G's going to log in and he's going to enter in his password. It's a nice secure password as well, which we'll see in a minute. I'm going to click in. Now I've got to do multi-factor authentication, which is really annoying for a user, but you know, we're going to do it anyway. Got multi-factor authentication. You can see it's going there. Do my face. I'm in. So I've stayed signed in. I can press yes, no. I'll just click no for now. I'm signed into Microsoft 365. Well, it seems a bit weird, but I'm logged in. I can carry on working if I wanted to, and maybe I'll reply back as a user. But everything looks okay there, right? I've logged in. The user doesn't see too much. I'm back onto the Microsoft 365 screen. Fair enough. But what's happened in the background? I've got the username that I'd logged in. I've got my super secure password that I've seen all in clear text. And this is, and it's worth noting. So this is on my Windows 365 PC that I'm logged into. I'm logged into here, and I logged into that as Lee G on my local user. So completely, you know, I'm not in the same. It's not the PCs aren't in the same room, if you get what I mean. But I can see down here in green, detected authorization URL, and a token's been intercepted. That means I can now log into this user for as long as this session token is active. Now, if I go back down to session, if I type in sessions now, you'll be able to see all the ones that so I've done this demo quite a few times. So you can see I've captured tokens previously, but this number 66 here was captured 9:36. So yeah, the time's a little bit out, but you can see, yeah.
GMT, isn't it? So it's an hour out is the one.
Yeah, so if I type in sessions 66 now, I've got this right here. So I've got the session cookies right here now. But I've also got the password again. So even in the future, say if I've already come out of this, I could probably do some MFA fatigue type stuff now. I've got that password. If I just keep on blasting it, hopefully the person will then start to just go approve in the end because he's getting tired of getting ransacked with MFA attempts. So now if I copy this here, up to here and copy, and go down to Firefox. Sorry, I should have had Firefox already open, but here's Firefox. And go to Portal. Don't want to use my primary browser, mate. Sorry. I'll go to portal.office.com. I'm already signed in, so let's just sign ourselves out. Sorry. I'm already signed in as Lee from a previous session. Let's just get out of that. So sign out completely. And I'm going to go switch to a different account. Right, so if I now go to my cookie editor and delete all of the cookies that are already in there, and I'll just refresh to portal.office.com. Sorry, forget this. Cool. So I'm going to forget that completely. Let's go back into the cookie editor, delete everything again, and I can see that there's nothing in there. So if I go to import now, and I go Control V and import those cookies that I just got from my Evil Jinx machine, if I now refresh this, I've now logged in as Lee. It's that easy. That easy to log into a tenant, as long as someone obviously clicks the link and gets phished. That easy. That's how we can log in absolute less than 5 minutes into a Microsoft 365 tenant, and that there can be used for as long as the session tokens are available for. And what's it? Is it 15 days, Luke?
I thought it was longer.
12 days?
I thought it was longer. I thought it could go for, and maybe I'm talking nonsense, but I thought it could go up to 90 days unless you tweak it. Is the one.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. But yeah, it's crazy. And if I was to go down to sessions now, but it's not only. Do you know what? This year I've got in as Lee. Lee might not be a global admin, right? But what can I do whilst I'm in the organization? I can go around, look at files that I didn't have access to, exfiltrate files I didn't have access to. But I could also use that link internally within Teams. So that Teams, I could go to somebody else within the organization and go, can you click on this, please, and and collaborate on this document with me. And it's pretty good. So, but if I use 57, for example, I'm just going to prove that I was already logged in as Lee when I got into it. I'm just going to prove that I can get into it, hopefully. If I sign out now completely, again, I know I'm logging this out a little bit, but if I go to portal.office.com again, and I forget everything again, you can see the J Jarvis one up there. So if I go to session 60 now, it's not in session 60, none was captured, section 59, sorry. 59. If I go to there, and now copy that, and go to my session up here, again, cookie editor, I'm going to delete all those cookies again, and then I'm going to import the cookies again. Cancel, imports were done, refresh. I'm now logged in as the global admin as well. So this is obviously one I've done previously, but it was logged in as a global admin in seconds just by using that session, the session cookies here. Very easy, eh?
Yeah, and I did have a quick look, John. So I hate to say it, but I was right, unfortunately. So Entra ID refresh tokens are valid for 90 days.
I think I think I put them down to 15 days with a conditional access.
Indeed, you can control them. So there are global settings, and that's for share. That there's a whole bunch of things. So it varies on the different service. Yeah. So if you're an admin center, it's 8 hours. Yeah. But Microsoft Entra ID used by Office and M365 applications in Windows clients and so forth. That's 90 days. Mobile
that's
apps
even
are 90
more scary,
days.
no?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So
and
yeah.
do you know what is worth noting as well, Luke? Is that if I was to go to admin now, and I've logged in, I can do absolutely anything I want to any user now. But if I was to go to security.microsoft.com, and look at the, I'm going to look at secure score, and secure score is not too high. If you look at this, it is a brand new tenant with security default set turned on. But if we go down to further down, we're at 46.5. But if you look at identity is at 82.1. Data is at 77.18, but I've now got complete control over this. The only thing that is down is apps. So apps is going to be the stuff that we're going to talk about in a bit to stop this from happening. So like Defender for Office 365, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, they're not turned on. If they were turned on, this would be a bit higher, and I probably wouldn't be too successful. But it is worth noting my identity score here is 82.1, and I just done an identity attack. So yeah, there's the demo. I hope that was enjoyable and someone learned a bit. But should we get back to
Well, let's
get back to the deck?
We'll keep these ones fairly brief and concise based on the timing. But let's talk about how can we do better? What can we do to prevent this kind of attack? Is the one for our users is the important thing. And I think first off, typically, and I mean, not everyone can achieve this on day zero, as it were, but have a look at how users are authenticating is probably the first thing that I would typically recommend. Disable just username, password, use MFA, don't use phone, don't use SMS, and don't use passwordless phone sign in is the one.
But Luke,
go for it.
We used username and password, and we use MFAs. Like, how can we stop this from happening?
So that's kind of the first angle. Let's disable less secure methods. Let's enable more secure and anti-phishing resistant is the one. So phishing resistant, I think, is the term that they use.
It is, yeah.
FIDO2 security keys, certificate-based authentication, and the new preview, which is passkeys for authenticator, are probably the three that I would look to target.
So the FIDO2 keys, like YubiKeys and stuff, that will completely stop this from happening. Like if you use YubiKeys within the organization, there's no way that this would happen. You need to have the key with you. It's worth noting there is a way to kind of get around the UV key if you steal them, and you can duplicate them now. They found a way. Costs a lot of money, and you need to have the key in possession. But it's just worth noting that. There you go. Sorry.
That's all right. That one's been patched. So if you buy a new UB key from Ubico directly, get 5.7 firmware, you'll be all right. But there's a bunch of other ones that we typically go out and say that you can go get. But even if you started with just your admins, put some basically passkeys for authenticator. It's free. It's just a preview. You just need to enable it, and you can use your iOS or your Android device as a passkey. That's another great way to kind of start doing this. Certificate-based, slightly more difficult, but I like FIDO2 security keys is typically where I'd go. So look at your authentication methods. The other key one that we typically layer on is conditional access. I won't spend a great deal of time talking on this, but it's the who, what, why, how, where you can access your tenants' kind of data and authenticate to it is the important thing. And I think the thing that I would recommend is looking at your conditional access rules, and these are the four that I kind of pulled together to basically try to mitigate against this attack is the one. So
the device compliance will do that completely. Yeah.
So we go to device compliance and basically make sure that only devices that are marked as compliant can access this is the important thing. The other key one I like is layering on from the previous one. So you defined all these authentication methods and said, hey, these are the methods I'll allow, or these are the methods that my users can sign up and use, basically. On top of that, we can use conditional access and a feature called authentication strength to say these are the authentication methods that people have to use is the one. So what I would typically do is create a rule maybe nowadays that would say if you access in an admin role, then I want you to have phishing resistant kind of authentication is the important thing. So I typically use authentication strength to say I need admins to come in under a phishing resistant kind of authentication method. Token protection. This is a new preview, and I think it's only available for Exchange and SharePoint Online at the moment. But it basically is a conditional access rule that makes it so you're unable to basically steal a token and reuse it is the important thing.
Oh, so, Luke, there's actually something else that's just come out actually in Entra ID Plan 2. There's a man in the middle resistance.
Is that? I feel like that might be the same thing, but this is so you can't. Yeah, I mean, if you know something, John, then let's.
Yeah, it's brand new. Nate brought it up when I've done this at
really?
Live. Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. So yeah, I mean, there's another new one, and then the other one is continuous access evaluation. So if you use location-driven policies as the one, and again, it might be you say admins can only come under a specific, outbound IP or whatever. They might have a POR, like a privileged access workstation. You can make use of conditional access evaluation or strict CAE, and basically that will evaluate it real time to ensure that people are only authenticating from where they say they are. If you had any number of these switched on, you should be covered from this is the important thing. It just depends on what level you want to do it. And I always talk about security versus usability and finding the right balance. Even if the key takeaway I would probably say is look to target your admins first and foremost. You don't even have to invest in the keys. If you make use of passkeys for authenticator, you can use the device compliance. Again, is another nice easy one if you're on Intune, and you can get going with those. Another nice one to layer on is identity protection. If you're not using that, then again, look to feed this one into conditional access. If you're creating an identity protection policy today, don't create it in the identity protection blade, create it in conditional access, and basically use the risk level of a user sign-in or what was the other one? Oh gosh, user sign-in. What's the other type for identity protection? It's user sign-in.
User risk. It's risky user and risky sign-in.
That's the one. Thanks, Sean. And basically make use of that into conditional access or into Sentinel if you want to trigger kind of further action off the back of that. But this is built in if you've got the P2, and you can make use of this, which is another great one to kind of layer in. You want to go for this one, John? Been attacked?
Yeah, sure. Been attacked. What do we do now? So identify and contain. So if you're using Microsoft Sentinel, if you've got a SOC, contain it. Try to contain the attack. So contain but what we've done before, remove the session, get the user to sign in again completely to get that user out of the question, and then we've got to figure out what's actually happened. So assess the damage. What has this user access in the time that he's actually been able to be within the organization? So has he spoke to anybody? What files does he access? What systems does he access? And just that conduction of an investigation could cost millions, depending on the size of organization and what the actual person's actually done. Then after that, remediate and recover. So clean up, restore, recover. So figure out what's been taken and try to recover anything. If there's been malware within the organization, do we need to pay a ransom? Or probably not. The best thing to do is not pay a ransom, because they probably won't give you what you want anyway, and you're just giving money to criminals. And something within this remediate and recover is actually, for me, will be communication. So communication within an organization to say that we've had a breach. We need to speak to the users so they can actually, kind of at the top in that review and learn, but to that review and learn stage. But stakeholders, CEOs, partners, everybody needs to know that there's been a breach, because this could actually directly influence partners that you have. Maybe they've figured out who a partner is, and they've been able to infiltrate them off the back through lateral movement. And then after that, the hardening process. So implement your best practices. Make sure that for us, and me and Luke spoke about this extensively in the past, is like, what security baselines do we use? So for me, use SIS baselines to protect your environment. And kind of what Luke said a second ago is like that usability factor. Work out what within that SIS baseline might stop users from being able to work and be productive during the day. Again, I keep saying within Avani, but Avani we have a TDA, and we've worked out kind of what SIS SIS policies are good for an organization and what aren't. We've taken them out. We've put in some other best practices from Microsoft and other various sources around the organization, and implement those best practices, and also get a pen test. So pen test, make sure that everything's okay. Do some red teaming with a third-party organization if you can't do it internally. Well, you should always do it with a third party anyway. Do some red teaming to figure out where needs where needs reinforcing. And then fifth, review and learn. Do a post incident review, but then also keep learning, keep reviewing consistently at a quarterly basis. Make sure that you're doing the best practices when it comes to your security baselines. Do stuff like the scuba report that CISA do within. Luke, if you can get the link up on that, that'd be great whilst I'm talking about it. But it's a free tool that CISA in the US have created, which goes through and looks through your baselines on Microsoft 365, Enter ID, Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. And it's a really good report to kind of see where you are in terms of baselines, but very, very much recommended. Very much recommended. But I think that's about it. We're almost done for time. So how'd you find it, Luke?
I mean, I think the demo went really well. Thanks for that, John. I appreciate it. It was it actually worked. So that is always the mark of a good demo. Is the one. I feel like
2 for 2 on demos. Like
yes, it's always fun, isn't it? It's the one. So thanks very much for listening, guys. Any questions, typically we take them here, but also just to allude to the point before we open it up, was that the scuba one that John's mentioned, I'll put a link into the deck at the end, and basically you can have a look through there. So all the references for the deck I typically put at the end, just of things that we've used to basically do this. You can have a look, and they should all be there as the one. So the scuba gear one I've chucked at the end, and that's basically just looking at the tenant to kind of evaluate against CIS baselines. The other one I like is, I think it's mainly focused on Enter ID, but I think it's called, what's that chap in the PM in Australia for Enter, John?
Merrill, yeah.
But is it Meister? What's the
Meister? Yeah, Meister's really good. Yeah,
that's the other one I'd probably look at as well. So I'll put a link to that one. That's the one I like. It's an up and coming one, but I like the look of that as well as a tool. So I'll chuck another line in, and you can have a look, guys. Just the one.
Yeah.
I'll just put a link in the chat for you.
Cool. Thanks, John.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning that people should be a bit careful running these tools in their own tenants.
Yeah, just do what I've done. Like, create a Microsoft 365 dev, and I've got something called a droplet. So I'm using DigitalOcean. So I've got I don't run it in Azure or anything like that. I use a droplet within Digital Oceans to do it. It's really easy to spin up, and you get an external IP address, all that type of stuff with it. So it's pretty good.
I think just to allude to that, I would consider running these two tools in your tenant. Yeah, these ones are kind of helping to basically evaluate your tenant and its security posture and what you can do to improve. I wouldn't, obviously, like alluded to a moment ago, I wouldn't start kind of
Don't run
manning
these
the
in
middle
your
of your own
environment.
tenant is the thing. So Craig, thank you for calling that one out. I think there's a balance to be struck about which you run on your own tenant versus which you do.
Great, thanks.
Happy
Luke and
for any
John.
questions as well. Happy for any questions.
Yep. So just raise your hands or post any questions in the chat, guys.
I'm just happy I'm 2 for 2 on the demo. To be fair,
I think
if I come out of a session like this and and the demo is working, I'm very happy.
And I guess it's mainly just figuring out what the best URL is, really, John, to make it more believable. Crafting that email, firing it across, and away you go is the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to keep up to date on this area. Yeah, for me it'll be running these tools consistently, the Meister and Scuba Gear. Obviously you've got, because they do update consistently. Meister does, they're really hot on keeping it updated. Scuba Gear is really good as well in terms of keeping it updated. I don't remember when the last update with it was, but I think it was pretty recently. But other than that, look at LinkedIn, look at attacks that are currently happening, which is a really good thing. So have good threat intelligence. I think look for like podcasts that Luke listens to as well, are pretty decent as well, aren't they, Luke?
Yeah, so I mean that's more just general cybersecurity, but the Darknet Diaries is a great one to have a listen to just get a feel for what people are doing really from a wider cybersecurity one. Helps. It's really pretty damn cool, that stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I agree. Good podcast. So yeah, if there's not any further questions, then we will upload the recording to our YouTube channel. We've also got a GitHub repository, so if you guys want to send over the slide deck to me after the session, I can upload it in
Cool.
GitHub as well to share
Yeah.
out to the community. And just one final thing, really, our next physical meetup of the Microsoft Security User Group is on the 15th of October in Oslo. So if anyone's interested in joining that, look out for the invite. That'll be coming out very shortly. But last thing to mention is, John and Luke, thank you very much for the session. It was really, really good. We've needed some more Microsoft 365 sessions in this user group. So I think that was a really good session that you ran there today. Thank you very much.
Cool. All right, thanks for having us, Craig. Really, and
I
everyone
appreciate
else
it for the invite. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, the key takeaway, go get some phishing resistant for your MFA would be my number one call to action. So go get it.
Cool. All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks,
Wonderful.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have
Bye.
a good one.
Cheers. Bye-bye.